All right, welcome to another episode of Indiana Politics. I'm Deb Chubb, and I am with Alessia Modjarrad today. Did I say that right?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Okay, great. And I just want to read a great bio about you, and I hope you'll comment more on it because you have such an interesting journey. All right, Alessia is a junior at Indiana University studying economic consulting and law and public policy. In the SPIA program, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. I love that program. Originally from Maryland, she began her work in politics after co-founding the grassroots progressive organization, Montgomery County for Change, and working to pass common sense gun legislation. We'd love to hear more about that. As the daughter of two immigrants, Alessia is passionate about ensuring that all people have access to equal opportunities and a well-funded public education. Now she's working to flip Indiana blue as president of the College Democrats of Indiana. She's also worked full-time as deputy political director for Dr. Woody Myers, Indiana's Democratic gubernatorial nominee in this past election cycle. So welcome, Alessia. So tell us a little bit more about yourself, and then tell us all about College Dems of Indiana.
Yeah, so that bio is a pretty good rundown of all the different parts of my life, but I like to say that the Montgomery County for Change, which originally was Montgomery County Students for Gun Control, really kickstarted what was my not necessarily career, but just journey through activism and through democratic politics. I was always a pretty hardcore Democrat. Back when Obama was running, I was very pro-Obama at a young age. In 2008, 2012, very engaged in 2016. I helped volunteer for Bernie when he was still campaigning in the primary. But it wasn't until 2018 when I really got involved in actually making a change. And it was right after the shooting in Parkland, Florida, where I'm sure you know, a lot of students and young people across the country decided to say, enough is enough. We're sick of the active shooter drills. We're sick of being treated like we have no worth in these schools. Let's do something. And so we really organized. Our biggest accomplishment, I'd say, in that last couple of months of what was my senior year of high school was we organized a 3,000 person march and rally on Capitol Hill, where we invited quite a few legislators. Chuck Schumer came, Nancy Pelosi, quite a few people. I can't even remember everyone at this point, and we really demanded something. We lobbied those legislators for the next coming months, and then eventually the organization turned into Montgomery County for Change, and they're still active and they still work on a variety of issues, including desegregating the public schools or the de facto segregation of public schools in Montgomery County, Maryland. So yeah, that's definitely one of my I'd say largest achievements, proudest achievement. I really enjoyed working with everyone in Maryland. But to talk more about College Democrats, like you said, I am a student here at Indiana University. And so I began my really journey in Indiana as a fellow for Liz Watson. She was running for Congress in the 9th District 2 years ago. I love her dearly. And then after that, I decided that I really liked Indiana politics, actually, and I really liked the people I met in Indiana. So I wanted to get involved, and I ended up running for a director of outreach for the College Democrats at IU. I did that for a year. I ended up running for president of IU Democrats this year. I just passed that torch along to my good friend, Sam Waterman, but now I serve as president of College Democrats of Indiana. And really what we do is we try and mobilize young Democratic students on campus. And something that I think is really important to point out is it doesn't necessarily matter what your exact ideals are. We have students that we work with that consider themselves to be centrist moderate, all the way up to your Bernie Democratic Socialist, even closer to Marxist ideology. And that really goes to show that we want to get good work done here in Indiana. But yeah, is there anything specific you'd like to know about our work, Deb?
Well, as we have discussed, the statistics show after the 2020 election that Indiana was one of the very few states where young people overall voted more often for Trump and Republicans than for Democrats. And so I wonder what you attribute that to. I know we're all just theorizing, and what you think we could do about it.
Yeah, so it's an unfortunate statistic, I think, because not many states are like that, where the category of young people actually leaned Republican this year. But a lot of it just comes down to a lack of voter registration and voter mobilization across all parts of the Democratic electorate here in Indiana, but it really goes to show in young people. And so when we don't prioritize young people, when we don't let young people lead, when we don't think that young people are important enough to, get phone calls to build actual field strategies around, they're going to get picked up by the other party, and that party is Republicans. Obviously, I don't specifically know what the Republican Party does. I know they have college Republicans just like us. But they're definitely putting in the work to actually turn out their voters, when I don't think that we have done that to the best of our ability ever, and it especially showed in 2020. And there are a lot of ways that we can be changing that, and it goes past just college Democrats, because obviously there are a lot of young people out there that are not in college and will not ever be in college. But doing things like providing the constituency caucuses, like college Democrats, an actual voice at the table. As of right now, on the state central committee, we have a seat, we get to attend, we get to speak, but we don't actually have a vote. And so it reflects, because you're willing to have our voice be at the table, sure. You're willing to let us work and volunteer for your campaigns, but when it comes to the important matters like voting on, Democratic Party rules, voting on what we should be spending our money on, the candidates we should be supporting, we actually don't get any decisive vote or any way to actually influence those decisions. So definitely starting there. And then also really talking about what young people care about, right? And how do you find that out? By talking to young people, by including young people, right? So we know that a lot of young people really care about climate change, because that's something that we're going to have to deal with over the next 60 years. A lot of young people care about things like especially college students, care about things like student loans and housing insecurity. A lot of young people will never own homes in their entire lives. They'll have to rent just because of how horrible the economic impacts are of having a low minimum wage and high student loans, high cost of living. Education's a big one. Healthcare is a really big one. So really speaking to what young people care about. And then also just in terms of field strategy, we know that young people tend to respond well to things like text messages, right? So when we think of field, we usually think of canvassing, so door knocking, and maybe phone banking or direct mail pieces. That might not be the best way to reach a young voter. The best way might be to text them, or relational organizing, having their friends text each other, going through different organizations on campuses, or just in their cities, churches, that sort of thing. So there is no lack of action items we could be doing to reach young voters. We're just not doing it, and it reflects. We had more young voters vote Republican this year than Democrat.
That is, it was surprising. It was really surprising to me.
Mhm.
And so, so I'm really hoping also to focus on the Democratic Party and the future of the Democratic Party, starting at the county level. So, so we, like in my county, we want to reach out to younger Democrats, and we want to engage younger Democrats. And in our case, they're probably young people who haven't actually identified as Democrats, because they're just young people working hard, trying to make it. And I have kids in that category who, just they're trying to, do their jobs. They're trying to get by. They're paying rent, paying car payments, and etc. Just trying to make it. And so they don't, they're just not really focused on a lot of these bigger issues like they would be on a college campus. And so I guess I look then to the county chair, to address that issue, to find ways to do better in a lot of areas. And so I wonder, what do you think that young Dems should expect from a county chair? Because I think that's where the action has really got to be happening.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I really like the phrase that all politics are local. And the best way to start reaching people is on this local grassroots level. And I know our College Gems chapters locally do a lot of really good work. So why aren't the county chairs doing good work? And really, I live in Monroe County and Bloomington, and I'm very blessed to have a great county chair right now, Jennifer Crossley. And I think more county chairs should be just like her, hardworking, unifying, really willing to go up to bat for all of their candidates, no matter what, no matter any personal issues with them. Really being inclusive, therefore, recruiting candidates and volunteers from all backgrounds, and really someone who is willing to fight the good fight, right? So we know that being a Democrat in Indiana is hard sometimes, and we all get burnt out, and it's difficult to have Republicans win as often as they do. But someone who understands really that they want to be county chair because they genuinely want Indiana and everyone in their county to live a better life. And that's why they're being county chair. And that's why they're running to be county chair, not because of some power play, not because, they did the work and it's their turn, or, they're, next person should be them because, they've been around for a while. To me, none of that is actually any, that's not any quality expectations or standards. It should be the person who consistently shows up for everyone, and the person who consistently works hard, and also someone who's going to be creative, right? Someone who's going to think outside of the box of what a county party should be doing, or what a county party even looks like, right? Because clearly what we've been doing over the last 10 to 15 years as Democrats in Indiana has not been working out very well for us. And so we have to figure out something new, a new system, a new structure, that sort of thing.
That's excellent. I'm so excited to hear that. And I like to put all that out there because I hope that other people will see that they can change their county Democratic Party activities. It feels like it's just this entrenched, insular monolith that nobody can reach into. And, I've heard, like many people, lots of complaints about the Democratic Party. But one that is most common is really just that it seems they're very exclusive. And I even heard a person, I couldn't believe it, a county chair, just recently, when someone said, why aren't you engaging, more progressive Democrats? And they said, well, why should we bother? Where are they going to go? And another woman stood right up and said, I'll tell you where they're going to go. They're going to go home, and they're not going to vote. And I thought that was such a great response, because this notion that you don't have to reach out to all Democrats because they're going to vote for a Democrat anyway is really not very accurate, I think. So I think that's really important on the local level in particular. And as we know, in March, the elections are coming up. County chairs are elected on March 6th this year for the Democratic Party, and they will be elected by all of the current precinct committee chairs and vice chairs, which is kind of another issue and another expectation that we would love to see improved for county chairs, and that being to hold, to train precinct committee chairs, help them do what they're supposed to do, which is to develop committees in their precincts of volunteers that are reaching out, creating relationships, gathering good data for the Democratic Party, and train them and help them with maybe precinct committee chair networks and peer networks so they can work together and help each other, and then holding them accountable. I haven't seen, I don't think I've known of any counties that I've run across who are doing a great job of that. The structure is good, and the structure could work, but it does have to be executed well. So, tell me what your plans are now for College Dems going forward in this working year, not election year, but a working year for Democrats. I do want to finish that thought, though, that precinct committee chairs will elect county chairs on March 6th, and 1 week later, the newly elected county chairs will elect congressional district chairs, and 1 week after that, the state central committee, which includes the congressional district chairs, as well as, oh, but you don't get a vote. Sorry. Constituency caucus leaders, um, most of whom have a vote, and a couple others, representatives from the who are elected to the Democratic National Committee. They will elect then the state party chair. And so we are really hoping this year to get fresh eyes, fresh legs, fresh energy in that position that will help really reinvigorate the party all the way down to the county level. So, and then I also want to make sure that, people are thinking about 2022 in that primary election in May on the ballot. You can vote for precinct committee chair. In January of 2022, you can file to run for your county precinct committee chair. So we would love to get fresh people in there, and I think that could really make a difference. But I think first we really need to up the expectations, and we need to really set out our goals. Okay, sorry. So tell me now your plans in this working year for college Dems.
Well, yeah, you actually brought up a very good point of the fact that we don't have a vote. And so hopefully that is something that we're definitely working towards, trying to understand all the different avenues to get our vote back, because we used to have one, I think somewhere around 5 to 10 years ago. And I know that personally, I will be supporting the state chair candidate that wants college Democrats to get their vote back. So that's definitely something that we're thinking about. But really, this year is a year in terms of sustainability and long-term growth. And going back to, all politics is local, really focusing on our college Dems chapters in their local areas. And so during an election year, you have all this busy, running back and forth. You kind of don't have time to set good structures, good relationships. You're just trying to get the Democrats around you elected. And so this year, we really want to focus on, okay, how can we be consistently recruiting new college Democrats, members and leadership so that our chapters, stay active for very long points of time. They develop relationships and keep those relationships. And also so that our college Dems chapters locally and then also statewide are actually diverse and they reflect what the Democratic electorate looks like, right? So I know we're really focusing on reaching out to new types of colleges that we haven't necessarily been at before. A lot of the colleges we're at now are, IU, Purdue, the bigger ones, Ball State, IUPUI, but really focusing on the smaller colleges that might not have been mobilized until this point, but are still really important. So community colleges, IU's satellite campuses like IU North and IU East, Marian University, Martin University, Vincennes, that sort of thing. And so really broadening so that we can hopefully have a college Dems chapter at every college in Indiana by the end of the year, or plans to do that so over the next couple of years, that sort of thing. And then also, hopefully, something I've been really considering is the idea of community service and mutual aid, right? So I know that there are a lot of communities across the nation, but especially in Indiana, that feel as though campaigns and politicians like to drop into their communities, make some kind of fake promises, kind of get their votes and then leave, right? And it's made a lot of people very, honestly, they don't think politics is a very trustworthy field to be in. And I get that and I understand that. And so really having our chapters locally and statewide invest in the communities that they're in, whether that's on campus or off campus through different community projects, like we mentioned, food drives, mutual aid, clothing drives, just volunteering at a local shelter, that sort of thing, so that people know that we show up even if there isn't necessarily something to be gained, right? Because at the end of the day, we really want to be helping people, that sort of thing. And also, I guess the last thing is really, I think 2021 is going to be a year where we shape the next decade of Democratic politics here in Indiana, starting with the county district chair and state chair elections, but what we do with all this new leadership. And so we really hope to be present and really hope to be facilitating a lot of that, having our voices be heard, saying, this is what we think should happen. We think that you should be focusing on young people, on college students, on progressive ideals and policies that shouldn't be seen as divisive, but just policies that are good, and also investing in us, right? One of the things that constituency caucuses receive from the party is they receive free, like, statewide van, right? And so imagine if college Democrats could have van access, and then I know how to cut a list. I could be cutting lists for all of our local chapters and saying, hey, here's everyone that's 18 to 22 in this specific dorm. Please go through and try and call them and update their voter registration, see if that's where they still live, ask them, what issues they care about, if they plan on voting. Like, we can do our own mobilization and voter registration and turning out, but we just don't necessarily have the tools to do that. The state party could help. So yeah, that sort of thing. There are a lot of different ways that we could be going about this, but really at the end of the day, it's having a state party and members of the Democratic Party here in Indiana actually care about young people and actually willing to say, you are important to us. We want to keep you around because we know Indiana has a brain drain problem. People will leave unless we give them a reason to stay. And a great reason to stay is because politics, and because we want to make, Indiana a better place to live. That was a long-winded way of saying
no, that's great. And, and I meant to say earlier how honored we are that you chose to come to Indiana. Being in Maryland, so close to DC and interested in politics, and then to come to Indiana, because we really appreciate it. And I know I've had that consideration, like, I could go live in a state that's a little more progressive, and but really, who would do the work? Who would do the work here? And so I give you a lot of credit for coming to Indiana and being so passionate here. We need you here. We need you here in Indiana. So, and
I love Indiana, so.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah,
that's nice. So, and I like it here too, other than the politics. But one of the other things that I hope that we can encourage young Dems to do is to actually attend these upcoming elections. You won't have a vote as in the county chair election unless you are a precinct committee chair or vice. Likewise, at the congressional district election, you won't have a vote unless you're a county chair, etc. But it is important still to attend. They are public elections. And you can find out where they will be. It should be posted in the newspaper, but call the county chair, call somebody to find out where it's at. But you should attend. And that is, it's important that those local Democratic Party officials know that you are attending, you're interested, and you expect to hold them accountable. So this is your chance. This is your chance to do it. And it's a chance to hear whoever's running for those positions to stand up and give a little speech and talk about themselves. And then for you to, get to know whoever wins that election so that you can, let them know what you expect from them. So I think, I encourage, particularly women to, own this party. Go in there and own it, and tell party officials what you expect from them, and demand that they do what they're supposed to do. The rules are not secret. They're not, they're out there. We just have to make sure they're doing it. So, okay. Oh dear. Okay. Well, so we're almost out of time. So anyway, Alessia, thank you so much for chatting with me. You have so much to give and so much smarts that are really going to help the party. And I appreciate your effort to get a vote on that state central committee. I agree that constituency caucuses are not valued in the way they should be. I had my own struggle in that realm, which I won't go into now. But anyway, it's an interesting system, and we have to get good leadership to make it work for everyone. So give us some last words of wisdom before we go.
Yeah, well, one, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. But something that I think really that has resonated with me and something I've thought about a lot, and something that I think everyone should be thinking about as we decide who our next state party chair and subsequent leadership is, for every seat in Indiana that we lose, for every voter that we don't turn out, for every piece of legislation that our Democratic elected officials end up trying to introduce in the General Assembly and they just get shut out because the Republican supermajority, really equals another Hoosier suffering, right? For every time that we don't do the work and we don't work as hard as we can during these election years and off years, there is someone out there there's a child who is not receiving the public education that they deserve with well-funded dollars. There's someone out there drinking polluted water and drinking or breathing in polluted air. There's someone who is being thrown into jail for no reason other than the color of their skin, or there's just, the list goes on of different ways that people in Indiana are having a very hard time, healthcare and climate change and housing insecurity, a lack of a well-paying job, right? Yeah. All of that is equal to every time we lose a seat and every time we don't work as hard as we can. And so if you are not someone who is willing to, really light a fire under yourself and go out there and work, then get out of the way and let someone who is willing to do that, because it's not about how far any one of us individually can get, it's how far we can push this state to do better for its citizens. And that's the way that we should be thinking about democratic politics and thinking about our actions every day. And, if you don't think like that, well, start doing it, because it's not, democratic politics, or any politics for that matter, should not be self-serving. It should not be how much power or money you can get, or how much you can hold over someone's head. It should be how much are you doing for your community. That's it. But yeah, very long-winded way to say that.
No, that's excellent. That is just excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much, Alessia. It's just great to talk to you. I so look forward to watching you work and seeing all of the great things you're going to bring to the state.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And happy New Year's Eve and to a better Indiana.
Yes, very good. Good toast. I'll remember that tonight. All right. Yes. Take care.
Awesome.